So you want to practice cinematography, do you? Try recreating some shots from your favorite films. This is my third year participating in Shot Deck Shot Recreation Contest. Shot Deck is a website founded by Lawrence Sher, who is the cinematographer for some famous films you might recognize like Joker and The Hangover, and it houses tons of different shots from tons of different films. For the last several years, Shot Deck has put on a competition with the simple challenge of pick a shot from our website and try and recreate it to the best of your ability. As I said, this is my third year participating in this challenge, and it's something that I look forward to every single year. It is so much fun for creatives such as myself to spend some time analyzing work from the experts and try our best to recreate those shots with the tools that we have available to us. I want to give a quick shout out to my wife Carly, who has put up with this challenge for the last 3 years and has agreed to help me each time. I chose 2 shots to recreate this year, and one is from the hit 2005 movie Constantine, one of my favorites, and the other one is from a movie that I admittedly have not seen yet, and it's called 13. The process that I follow for choosing my shots is typically I search through Shot Deck and I try and accumulate a list of some close-up shots, because I don't want to go too wide with the shots because that usually exposes more of the surrounding set design, which frankly I don't have the time or the money to recreate all that. I've been so excited to recreate this shot from Constantine because, as I said earlier, it is one of my favorite films of all time. The story, the world building, the acting, action sequences are all top tier and so well crafted. This movie continues to blow my mind 20 years later. There are not a ton of films out there that have this aesthetic.
I'd hate to think what he would do to this world if he ever broke through.
So will I make the filmmakers of this epic film involving a spiritual battle between good and evil that threatens to encroach on our physical realm proud? Probably not. Let's dive into it. I started with tackling what little set design was present in the shot, mainly the bed sheets, which I changed over to our beige colored set, and I would later tweak in post to more closely match the colors from the original shot. While I was doing this, my wife was busy attempting to match her makeup to the look of Rachel Weisz in the original shot, and she also threw together a quick top to try and replicate what she was wearing in that shot as well. As far as lens choices go, I was a bit constrained with how tight I could go based off the physical ceiling height in our bedroom. So I know in Shot Deck I believe it said this was a long lens, and so I ended up landing at a 50mm on my APS-C sensor, which does crop that in a little bit, and that gave me roughly the proportions that I was looking for, and also kept the framing of how much of her body I wanted in the frame, and also like the bed and the sheet and stuff like that. I then set up my 100-watt Zhiyun light with the softening dome on it as the main key. To soften it further, I whipped out my 5-in-1 reflector, and I attempted to bounce the light against it for added softness, but I ended up having to punch the light through it instead of bouncing it, and that was just because I couldn't quite get the right angle and the right quality of light, and so I ended up using the diffusion pane instead and punched the light through it, and then that was the main key on Carly's face. So this actually was the only light that we used, and the only other modification that we made to the scene in terms of light is I draped a black fabric sheet over one of the railings that kind of like frames the bed in our bedroom. I draped a fabric sheet over that and created basically a wall of black to prevent any unwanted spill from the light bouncing off of the white wall on the opposite side of the room back onto Carly. Thankfully, it was around this time when my cat decided to come help me set up my C-stand, which ended up being a total waste of my time. I thought booming my camera overhead on the stand and taking the shot with the help of the Sony Creator app on my phone, kind of using it as like a mobile monitor, was going to be the move, but there were so many minor tweaks I had to make to the angle. I ended up ditching the C-stand and just standing above my wife on the bed with the camera and just kind of like hand holding it. Before I get into the grading process in DaVinci Resolve, here's the final result. Color grading is admittedly not one of my strong suits, and so I relied on DaVinci's Matte to Shot tool to bring my S-Log3 footage to a Rec 709 color space, and also get me in the ballpark of roughly what the original shot looked like color-wise. But it wasn't perfect, so I had to set up a pretty basic node structure to do some additional tweaking. I adjusted my white balance and exposure, adjusted the skin tones using the qualifier tool, I used a power window to reduce the intensity of the light on Carly's face, I corrected the bedsheet color, again using the same qualifier tool. I also added a Gaussian blur to the overall image to remove some of the digital sharpness, as the recreation here was shot on my Sony FX30, where the original was shot on 35mm film. And then I added some 35mm film grain to top it all off. It's not perfect, primarily in the framing, but overall I'm pretty happy with the result. This next shot from 13 really fooled me because at first I really thought it was going to be as simple as have my wife lay down, have some candles in front of her for the eye lights that you see here, a green edge light, a warm hair light, and boom, there you go. and it was in fact not that simple. The candles that we chose were really small tea lights and ultimately did not have near enough the exposure when lighting them to act as any kind of a key light, let alone an eye light. In the final result, we do have all 3 candles lit in front of her, but they just didn't do quite enough pushing to really even pop in her eye. So this forced me to break out a small light from Ulanzi that I have, and I used that to kind of help push the candle light into her face. But in doing this introduced a weird square large eye light. It was very sharp and poignant, and it was just kind of a necessary evil that I had to push forward with to get the right exposure on her face. Next, I used my Aperture MC Pro as the green edge light and another small Ulanzi light as the hair light, and placed some small pieces of cinefoil on both Ulanzi lights to control the spill of each one. Then for the foreground flames, I used 2 lighters that I held in front of the lens and tried to match the position of these flames to the flames in the actual shot. The flames themselves didn't look quite the same both in shape and intensity. I ended up stopping my lens down to try and preserve some of the highlights from the flames, and although that got me a bit closer, it still left me astounded with how well real film handles blown out highlights compared to digital sensors. So without further ado, here's the final shot for 13. I'm not quite as happy with this one as I was with the Constantine shot, but here's what I did in post and eventually resolved to tweak some of the colors. At first I tried to replicate the process from the Constantine shot where I used DaVinci's Master Shot tool, but yeah, that didn't work as well this go around. For my conversion from S-Log 3, I used a specially curated conversion LUT that I paid someone to develop some time ago for a film that I was working on. Then I tweaked the white balance and exposure, and created a power window to introduce some shadow to the top side of her face. I typically hate using power windows like this to introduce shadows or introduce contrast, where it previously wasn't, instead of actually using a power window to enhance the contrast that's already there in the shot. But again, we faced lots of challenges, and so my hand was kind of forced to use a power window in this way. To give the flames more of a rich, warm yellow tone, I keyed those out individually using the qualifier tool and introduced some color to those, and then I tweaked the hue and saturation levels a bit on the green edge light, and then I added a decent amount of Gaussian blur as the original was filmed on 16mm film stock, so very grainy and kind of dirty. And then I added some grain, and then I added a beauty filter to my wife's face to kind of enhance and further that softness that you get with 16mm film stock. Not that my wife needs a beauty filter, I want to clear that up right now, it was just to enhance the look and try and match to the shot as closely as possible. I want to make that clear. As always, I had so much fun doing this competition this year, just as I have in years past, so thank you to Shot Deck for putting this on, and thank you for watching. Have a good one.
It's a little bit more terror in my eyes than hers.